Both drivers, all of us dey here so now. Now lot is good, now they just kill see at the castle hotel. We dey here now, we dey here. All that see. Just like that. You not do anything, no. You not now one open. If that passenger they reverse, they say you want jam, you not jam out. The CCTV there. Who they are may come here beg.
Something happened in Benin City on the 5th of February 2025. A Bolt driver by the name of Henry Osarodion was beaten to death after dropping off a passenger at the hotel. He was caught in a situation that ordinarily simple decency and home training would have resolved. But due to the fact that most people were brought up by wild dogs and wolves, this situation ended up badly. Now, the initial incident happened on the 4th. But the death of this boat driver was on the 5th. So luckily for us, he had time to tell his story. And it was through his point of view that we were able to get what really happened to him and a CCTV footage to prove that he was on the right. So around the 4th of February, it was said that Henry went to drop off a passenger at the Castle Hotel along Limit Road in Benin City, Edo State. This was around 12 in the afternoon. After dropping off the passenger, this boat driver is getting another order and is trying to leave the hotel parking way to go for his next ride, only for him to be met by somebody else in the parking lot who happened to be someone who was lodged at the hotel. A young man approached him and told him, "You nearly hit my car and you also nearly ran over me." It's not like Henry hit his car and it's not like Henry ran over him. Henry nearly did. Now, the footage does not have the sound of the audio, but it was clear that the guy was upset at Henry and it seemed as though Henry said something, but the person did not take it well. Apparently, Henry claimed he apologized, but the person was not satisfied with the apology. At the same time, if I nearly did something and I didn't do it, what am I apologizing for? So why did Henry need to even apologize? Apparently, this said person was just upset. Maybe he was having a bad day already at the hotel. Eventually, he confronted Henry. When Henry was trying to leave, you could see him hit the vehicle. Henry still remains in the vehicle. This man continued throwing punches, most likely throwing words, and eventually, Henry had to come down to fight for himself. Henry had to come down from the vehicle to stand up for himself. But what he did not know or what he did not prepare for was the fact that this person had other friends who were also lodged at the hotel, who saw the commotion and who came to join in the beating up of this boat driver. Henry was jumped. By jump, I mean multiple people started beating him up. And he tried his best, but obviously you are one man and you cannot take over 4 people who are trying to hit you with stick, kick you and beat you down. Eventually, the security team of the hotel, the civil defense people mounted at the hotel, came to separate the fight and stop this man from beating Henry. But the thing is, these people had a bias because the people beating up Henry were lodged at the hotel. So clearly, the civil defense, the security team of that hotel would take the side of the people bringing in money for the establishment. Henry clearly was just treated like, okay, come and go, you're a boat driver, you're a taxi driver. Eventually, Henry claimed that one of the guys who beat him up or somebody around who saw the fight gave him 10,000 naira to go treat himself. Now, at this point, Henry should have just gone. Henry would have just taken that money and left. In fact, he would not have died if he had left this hotel at this point. He did something next. And in my opinion, what he did next, so what? It's just an unfortunate situation for Henry, in my opinion. This was just a bad day for him because it was said that after he got the money to leave, he decided to take a picture of the plate number belonging to one of the guys who beat him up, with hopes that if he goes to the hospital and the injury, because he was already sustaining some serious injury, then he would have to find them and have them maybe pay for the hospital bill. Even aside that, by right, I'm going to take the plate number to find you again. I don't care. I'm not going to find you to pay no bill. Even if it wasn't an injury, personally, I will take that plate number to find you again. And maybe we can now fight one-on-one, because now all these people or all these guys be having so much energy because they know they have a team of people behind them, because they know they have friends who will come out. So At the time Henry was taking the photograph of the plate number, the security people saw him and they were like, nah, you can't do that. You see, this is how you know these civil defense people mounted at this hotel. They were pretty much taking the side of the people who lodged at the hotel, which, by the way, I hear that they were already checking out when this thing happened. So why the preferential treatment? Why not be fair to the situation? They pretty much stopped Henry from taking the pictures and they tried to get him to delete it. So now Henry is fighting with one of the security team, one of the civil defense man, pretty much the one who held him and took him away from the crowd of people beating him. Pretty much. Now the man is like, you have to delete it. And Henry is like, no, I'm not deleting this. These people jumped me, injured me, and I'm going to the hospital with 10,000 naira. What if it's more? Who is going to pay for it? And that is how the civil defense decided to do more than himself and decided to oppress Henry because they don't see him as a human being, because he's a boat driver. How stupid. This security personnel called for backup and lied to this backup team that Henry was a thief, labeled him a thief, and pretty much they gave him another round of beating. They beat Henry again. They cocked their gun at him, pointed gun at him, threatened to shoot him, used knife at him, punctured his tires, and threatened to hurt him with these weapons. He was chased around by these officers. This is hell. This is tormenting. This guy is trying to recover from being beaten by a group of angry boys who I'm sure they were most likely angry because the yahoo they were doing failed and now they want to take it on somebody else. And here he is fighting for his life from the hands of somebody who should be protecting him. Eventually, the backup officers came. Henry was, arrested. After being beaten, he was handcuffed. His phone, his cars were seized. Despite the fact that they saw this man bleeding from his head, they still took him to the station and gave him only first aid. He tendered his statement at the police station and eventually, the people released him. I think what happened first was that he was released from the civil defense people that, arrested him. Then he went to the police station, wrote his report, and I think this is where most of the story was coming from, and then took himself to the hospital. Unfortunately, the next day, he died from his injuries. His family and friends and his colleagues, who are also boat drivers, decided to stage a peaceful protest, and they went to the hotel, and the protest somehow turned aggressive because some thugs got to hear of what happened to Henry, and they did not take it lightly. The hotel was raided, ransacked. The manager was lynched and beaten, but he survived and made an interview with a swollen eye, claiming he wasn't there at the hotel, claiming the people who beat Henry were already not lodged at the hotel, they were already checking out, claiming that he did not know what happened. The 4 civil defense officers who beat Henry and handcuffed him and took him to their station and gave him only first aid at their hospital without seeing this man bleeding, they still arrested him, have also been arrested. But apparently they're not the only ones who beat him up. The first group of people who did are yet to be identified. The CCTV footage is already in circulation. I don't know, at the time of making this video, it's already 5 days since the incident. Hopefully the police were able to identify some of the boys who jumped and beat up Henry. And I hope they do, because I feel like the people who would have caused his death are those first people. However, every single human being who laid their hands on this man should be locked up, should be liable for his death. If they check, they'll find out that it's due to the blunt force trauma and the hitting. But since all of you punched him and hit him with something, how would they know whose punch killed him? Therefore, all of them should be locked up. To be honest with you, this story was very upsetting. And seeing the CCTV footage, you could tell that this was just a man having his own day, doing his own job and getting harassed by some random people. Me personally, maybe if Henry knew that this was going to escalate as far as it did, he would have just driven off regardless. But the thing now is, if he had done that, it would look like he's guilty. It would look like he did something because the guy did not want to allow him go. He was driving when the guy came to hit him. What else do you want? If they've told you sorry, what do you want? They nearly hit you, they nearly ran over your car, but that did not happen. If he had done it, it still would not have been justifiable to kill him, but he didn't. Henry is the father of 2 small children, 2 little children, and now they've lost their dad. Because the dad was trying to put food on the table, was trying to take care of his family and his wife. They won't have a father again because some people decided to train their sons as wolves as animals, as people who cannot come to a resolution without going physical. This is why I just don't like physical altercations. If the I'm sorry does not do you and you cannot use your word to communicate, why must you be violent? We live in a society where everybody rates a man by how far he can be physical. And now one is dead, and 4 is in jail, and 4 others are still being looked for, all because you just could not use your words. You tried to hit me, I'm sorry. Even if he did not say he was sorry, was it worth it to go physical, to hit, to fight? Acting like animals. And when I did hear the story, in my mind I was like, both drivers can be rude sometimes. But seeing the CCTV footage, thank God we have CCTV footages, I was like, it was clear that Henry was trying to leave. It was clear that Henry was the victim here. It was clear that these people came to attack him. They provoked him. And there's only so much a man can take before he stands up to defend himself. And I think Henry did nothing but to defend himself. He probably did not know all the other boys were there and they would jump him too. Maybe if he did, he would have just let it go. Like, go home to your kids. You have a child. Sometimes when you have a child at home, it's not something you want to worry about. I remember this one time when I was coming from the market with my nephew in the vehicle, and I think my mom was also there, and I remember driving past this keke tricycle man that started yelling. He was at fault, but he was so aggressive and I was provoked. But I knew that was not the moment for me to come down and fight. There's a child in the car and my mom is even there. So it was just bad timing. I knew I just took them home, and somewhere in my mind I was thinking to come back though to find that man and maybe probably fight the fight. But you know, when you have a family and you have children that you go home to, maybe that's why you have to put your family's picture in your car, in your office, so that you are reminded that nothing is worth it. No one is worth it. Because I feel like for a moment Henry lost it, and I understand. It's frustrating, but maybe one look at his 2 beautiful kids in that vehicle will remind him that, yeah, these little boys, they are not worth it. They are really not worth it. And maybe apologize again. Maybe come down and kneel down and be like, I'm so sorry, no verse. Probably give him 10K and drive off. I mean, this is just a wild imagination, seeing what it turned out to be in the end. Seeing what it turned out to be. A young man lost his life for nearly hitting your car, for nearly hitting you. People who have hit people's car and have run over people have not been beaten or killed like this. But somebody who nearly did it is gone. And for those civil defense officers, I just hope that connection does not find a way to get them out of prison. Those ones, even if they don't find those boys, those civil defense officers, they're the ones who even killed Henry, in my opinion. Because if that guy had gone to the hospital, he would have treated himself long. You released him in the evening. This incident happened around 12 noon. It was in the evening, you'd let him go to the... Nah. They should be held responsible and held liable. Their face should be published. I wish the Edo State Command would watch this video, release their faces, release their names, and charge them to court, because those men are murderers. Civil defense, say what they're doing. This is now civil attack. What in the hell? It's just upsetting. I'm upset. I don't like the way we look down at boat drivers or these Uber drivers. It's a job like every other job. Some of them even make more money than some of these white collar people wearing a suit and tie. But everybody just feel like you can look down on anyone because you're in a position where you think is high enough that every other person is beneath you. It's messed up. I just hope these other boys are fine also. Regardless, they should find them. The CCTV footage is available. The hotel knows their name. They lodge there. Find them and lock them up too.